Holly James, my daughter, was murdered on July 9th, 2008 in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Holly was a pretty neat kid. She came right out of college, graduated with her Bachelor of Science in Nursing, went from being a broke college student to being a second lieutenant in the Army. She thought she was rich by then. During the summer between her junior and senior year, she met a man named John Wimunc. She met him out in Jacksonville, North Carolina, where he was a Marine. So they had a whirlwind romance. And sometime during the second semester of her senior year, she married him. Moved out to Fayetteville, North Carolina. In July, she didn't show up to work one morning. The people with whom she worked went looking for her. They found her apartment burned, and Holly nowhere to be found. 3 days later, they discovered Holly's mutilated remains in a shallow grave outside of Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, where the body had been chopped up with an axe, had been burned repeatedly to try to destroy evidence. Again, in an effort to try to destroy evidence, John Wimunc had started her apartment on fire. There were 20 apartments. This was early in the morning. So there was no regard for the other 20 families or 19 families that were living in this apartment building, all of whom were probably still asleep in their bed. He could have very well killed many, many more people. Though it got the national media's attention, it was another case of domestic violence. Another woman in this country killed and mutilated by her husband. A lot of people believe, and I didn't know much about domestic violence before that happened, but a lot of people believe that those things happen in the heat of the moment, in the passion, where there's a fight. In this case, it wasn't in the heat of the moment. Holly had decided to leave John Wimunc. I had recommended to her that she change the locks in her apartment, and she had, because almost immediately when they began living together, the abuse began. Holly put up with that abuse for about 7 months. Holly did not have an abused person mentality. So that morning, the day after she told John Wimunc that she was going to leave him, it never occurred to me that he might kill her. Holly said, "Dad, it's going to be a nasty divorce." I'm not sure what nasty divorce conjured up in my mind. I suppose that I thought they would fight. I suppose I thought they would argue. I suppose I thought it might even turn physical. But the thought that he would murder Holly is a thought that never occurred to me. I wish it had occurred to me. I wish for just one moment I would have thought, maybe he'll kill Holly. Maybe he'll murder Holly. My reaction would have been so different. I didn't know anything about domestic violence. I advised Holly as best I could to change the locks in her apartment, to have a place to run to, all of the things I thought at the time that a person should do if a situation turned violent. Imagine what I might have told Holly had it occurred to me that he might murder her. I imagine that I would have went to Fort Bragg, North Carolina that day to be with my daughter. Or I imagine I might have told my daughter to fly home to be with us so that we could protect Holley. I imagine I would have done a lot of things besides just tell Holley to change the locks in her apartment. If I had known, for example, that 3 women in this country are murdered every day by their partners, 2 out of 3 of those women who are murdered every day are murdered at the time that they're trying to get out of the relationship. When something like this happens to you, there's a lot of ifs. I can only say that what I would have done would have been very different than what I did do. What's it like to lose a child? Everyone in your family goes through grief in their own certain way. I think what adds to the grief of a dad, of a man, is that he's supposed to protect his daughter. He's the one person in the world that is supposed to protect his daughter from everyone. I think a daughter thinks that too. Dad couldn't fix this. Domestic abuse isn't a crime of passion. It isn't a crime in the moment. People decide, people make a decision that they're going to kill someone. So when I talk about domestic violence to young people, or to old people, to parents, what I tell them is, if you're in the relationship, or your child is in the relationship that's violent, let the thought occur to you that you could be murdered. If that thought occurs to you, you'll prepare for that. And the worst that happens is when the relationship is over, you've over-prepared. But what might happen is you might save your own life, or you might save the life of your child, if the thought occurs to you